Hello and welcome to Time to Get Fit. I'm your host, John Pearlstone. I'm a trainer and fitness consultant who for the last 7 years has lived a life based exclusively on timing. And that's what this show is all about, to explain to you the program I developed called the Eating and Exercise Timing Fitness Plan. Over the last 7 years, I've put together a lot of information, science-based, that helps people understand how timing makes such a huge difference in their efforts towards long-term success with weight loss and fitness. And over the last couple years, I've put a couple books together. One is called It's Not What You Eat, It's When You Eat It. And the other is called, Go Easy Fitness. It's so new I forgot the name kind of, but not really. Go Easy Fitness is very focused on the Eat Fitness Plan's very unique approach to exercise. But tonight, let's take a step back and let's talk about where we are. Let's just think about for a second, where are we in this fight against obesity? And if you look at the information provided by the people who track such statistics, we're not doing too good. And you can see it's getting worse, and it's become quite the epidemic, and I believe it's almost 40% of people are either obese or very obese at this point, and the trajectory is to go much, much higher. And you want to couple that, there's very few people that discuss obesity that don't want to talk about diabetes. So let's take a look at how we're progressing against the fight on diabetes. And it's looking very similar. If you flip these upside down, we might consider there to be a successful fight going on, but the fact is they are getting worse and worse by the year with no end in sight. And so people in their way take a step back and look at what they think they see out there and say, oh, we got to tell people what they're doing wrong. And that's where this little object has come into play. Good old Coca-Cola, soda, also known in the science community as sugary beverages. And people are just convinced this is the cause of those two graphs for obesity and for diabetes. And if we could just get people to stop drinking this, everything would be just fine. And they've even gone so far to develop quite a sizable campaign to talk about it and get people to make changes in their life. And the way they feel it's most appropriate to do that is trying to get the government involved. And they put this Open Truth campaign together, and look at the fancy graphics. They're saying the sugary beverages affect diabetes, obesity, heart disease, cancer. Basically everything you could have wrong with your health is somehow directly linked to sugary beverages, i.e. soda. Now, you're listening to someone who has spent the last 7 years with absolutely no diet restrictions whatsoever. Drink plenty of this stuff. My personal preference is a gigantic Coke Slurpee, but it's Coke nonetheless, and I enjoy it freely, without reservation and without restriction. And I have none of these issues that they've mentioned. I know I could just be some freakish example of a rare event where it didn't happen. But, one example does not a conclusion make. I understand that. So what I'd like to do for the rest of this presentation is put forth a little different philosophy on how this might get solved, and will soda actually make a difference if the communities that are chasing it effect a soda tax or try to restrict your drinking of soda in some way, shape, or form. So instead of open truth, which is what these folks are claiming they're telling you because they see people drinking soda who are obese, that must be why they're obese, I'd like to tell you the whole truth. And I'd like to make sure it's very science-based and let you make your own judgment on what may or may not have some effect on results fighting this obesity and diabetes epidemic. So I call this presentation Enjoy Soda at Lunch. And that one might stop you in your tracks right there because we're talking about enjoying soda, not restricting it, enjoying it. And we're talking about eating it or drinking it at lunch. And when you take a step back and think about what is lunch, lunch is a time. It's a meal time that everybody kind of understands is typically for most people in the middle of the day. So what am I trying to say? The basic premise of this presentation is that I believe I can defend that positive effects on obesity and diabetes can be achieved by drinking soda, enjoying it, only at lunch. Now, if that sounds fairly radical to you, it's because you haven't heard the whole truth. And that's what you're going to hear tonight. But again, let's be clear. Not only could you avoid harmful effects by drinking soda and enjoying it at lunch, I'm saying things could actually improve. So one side of the fence is saying eliminate it, you got to restrict it, we're going to tax it, we're going to penalize people who enjoy it. And I'm saying the exact opposite. Give them a time to enjoy it and watch the world change. But it's not just my opinion that has come to that. Now, I'm going to give you all the details as we go forward. I also will mention that this is really the foundation of the book I've put together called It's Not What You Eat, It's When You Eat It. It's not the soda you're drinking, it's when you're drinking it. That's the premise of the book, and it's covered under pain-free guideline number 8 of the 25 guidelines in the book. Just thought I'd give you a reference for that, simply because some people have access to the book, and it's really the most important element of the book, so I thought you should know that this is well-covered and well-traveled territory. It's not just something I'm piecing together over the last couple of days. Yet, there's a lot of new information since I put the book out that I'm happy to share tonight. So here are the 3 key points that defend why you should be enjoying soda at lunch if you want to see obesity and diabetes improve. Number 1 is metabolic timing, and we're going to give you a lot of details of what that's all about. Number 2, restrictive dieting is far more harmful than any soda has ever been on anybody, and I intend to defend that and prove it to you. And number 3, education for nutrition and exercise timing is another reason to enjoy soda at lunch. It will lead to further education. You'll get kids, you'll get teenagers, you'll get a lot of adults saying, why would I want to drink it at lunch? Why not dinner? Why not breakfast? And there's specific answers to that question that involve learning about nutrition, learning about the proper way to use exercise and exercise timing. It would open the floodgates for information that people don't know right now that could absolutely change their lives, as well as the many lives of people suffering at the whims of the food police telling them they're doing everything wrong when science doesn't support that statement at all. So let's get into it, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. First of all, let's talk about enjoying soda at lunch because of metabolic timing. Now, conventional diet and exercise says, look, it's all about calories in and calories out, and soda's empty calories, and so you really, just worry about getting fewer calories in you, and so we won't be drinking the soda, or we'll tax it and make them less likely to drink it, and that'll improve their health. But guess what? Science has a little different conclusion out there these days. A study from 2013 showed conclusively that groups eating their carbs earlier in the day lost more weight than the folks eating later in the day and at night on the exact same diet, the exact same number of calories. It was not a small difference either. Over 12 weeks, the group that ate earlier lost 10 more pounds. I'd say that's fairly dramatic for those of us who are kind of interested in managing our weight. And certainly, they didn't say, well, we're going to make sure everybody excludes soda. They ate and drank the exact same diet, whatever it may have been. They didn't specify. But the bottom line is they were able to lose more weight. We're going to get to the specifics of how soda might affect that later on. So that was published in Obesity Research Journal, not just some small-time publication. It was a major peer-reviewed study. And there was another interesting tidbit that came from that study that tells you the power of metabolic timing. And that is, people are saying, look, it's when you eat your calories, it doesn't matter. It's certainly not going to help you get more fit or get more healthy to worry about when you're eating or drinking your soda, since tonight's discussion is about soda. And the research shows that is just not true. Science says, if you take a look at that same study, interestingly buried in the notes, the triglycerides of the group that ate earlier were down 33.6%. And while there's a lot of debate going on about cholesterol these days, everyone agrees high triglycerides are a very dangerous component of heart disease. And yet these folks who had the exact same diet as the people who ate later were down 33.6%. Strictly a timing difference. Take a look what happened to the people eating later. They weren't just okay dieting, they were up 14.3% in their triglycerides. So again, we're not talking about eating different foods here. We're not talking about restricting food groups or low glycemic carbs or avoiding soda or anything else. The exact same caloric diet produced dramatically different weight results and dramatically different results for triglycerides for folks who ate earlier in the day, again, drinking their soda at lunch. There's more. How about this? How about the problem if you've studied weight loss, if you've worked with people at the various levels of obesity, which I have, you understand it's not about finding a diet that creates weight loss. There are many of those. It's about, can you keep the weight off? And if we're going to be putting legislation together to try to encourage or reduce the obesity epidemic, we better make sure that it's going to last. And there's no evidence whatsoever that supports a soda tax or any sort of punitive approach to stopping soda drinking that would have any effect on obesity. And there's evidence after evidence after evidence, but this one might be the most powerful I can bring you. There was a study in 2012 that they gave one group of participants, all of whom were obese when they started, they gave one group of participants a sizable slice of chocolate cake each morning with their breakfast. And the other group just had the same total calories, but no high glycemic carbs, no sugar. Again, we're going to be focusing on sugar here very shortly. Take a look at what happened to these folks. Over 16 weeks, both groups lost an average of 33 pounds. Okay, that's wonderful. They dieted, they were able to lose weight. And you know, the people who are really championing soda tax and never drink soda or get the sugar out of your life are saying you're going to get healthier for doing it. And in the short term, they might be right. There's very small, but some evidence they may be right. Let's go to what matters. How long do we want this stuff to work? By week 32, the group that did not get dessert in the morning, the ones who were just dieting forever supposedly, they regained 22 of the 33 pounds. Meanwhile, the folks who were enjoying their sugar, it wasn't soda, but I'm contending it very well just as could have been. They're enjoying their dessert each morning. They lost an additional 15 pounds. By allowing the freedom of choice to have the flexibility of eating foods they enjoyed, for the long haul through their diet, they were able to lose more weight, not just keep it off, but continue to lose weight to actually approach getting control of obesity. That is, again, a peer-reviewed scientific study. You can track it down and read it yourself. And it's largely ignored by the community because, again, they're trying to say sugar's the devil. But this was sugar. Nobody got addicted. Nobody lost control. The people that weren't allowed to eat sugar, they were the ones who lost control. They were the ones who had to go back, probably binge eat excessively because they felt like they were being deprived, and regained weight over the second 16 weeks. If you don't find that as a significant point to trying to stop restricting people from various foods they want to eat, then you're not listening. It's really that simple. But it gets even better. I'm not done. Let's talk about a 2014 study that was actually released as recently as December. And this was by the very prestigious Salk Institute out of San Diego. These folks put mice on a time-restricted diet. And look at what happened. They had different groups that had different diets of all sorts. I'm just going to hit the points that I highlighted on the slide. It's an effective intervention against obesity was their conclusion. It protects against metabolic disease. And it's effective against high fat, and pay special attention, high fructose diets or high sucrose diets. What's high fructose, folks? That's what everybody's yapping about with your soda, that you cannot manage your weight and it is harmful for obesity and diabetes. These folks just found out through mice that you can basically eat whatever you want during the appropriate time windows and control all those conditions better than restrictive dieting. Better. Not similar, better. So I know that's mice, but then you take a step back and realize almost every study the soda industry is using to defend the causing of diabetes, the causing of obesity by high fructose corn syrup and drinking excessive sugary beverages is through mice. There's virtually no studies. In fact, I can't think of a single one that showed a study of people drinking excessive soda and showing worse conditions and eating the same amount of carbs or calories of another particular diet plan. That study does not exist. If it does, please forward it to me and I'll be happy to retract that. But I know it does with mice, and I know they use it to defend it. Look at the latest study with mice by the most prestigious outfit in the country, at least one of them, saying the exact opposite. Here's a nice graphic to kind of put it in perspective. And all they're really saying is what I just reviewed with you, was if you take the mice and you give them a high-fat diet, but you time it, they lose weight. If you take the mice and give them a high-fat and high-carb, high-fructose diet, they still lose weight as long as they restrict the timing in which they eat it, as long as they drink their soda at lunch. And the final one is, again, just another example of the various timing efforts they tried, and it showed in every case, they gave them some flexibility on weekends. That's what the last one shows, and they still were able to get the metabolic benefits of timing. So again, you can either chase restrictions that show no benefit whatsoever over the long term, or you can take a look at what science is really saying, that timing affects your metabolism and can actually have a real impact on obesity and diabetes for mice, and from my personal experience with my clientele, from humans as well. And it's becoming more and more established through some of those other human studies. The only study that was mice was the last one I mentioned. So that's point one. Metabolic timing is a far better solution than any soda tax or restriction of soda. That is absolute as far as I'm concerned. Let's try to drive home even more, because it goes further. By putting a soda tax on this, it's implying you shouldn't be drinking the soda. And restrictive dieting is far more harmful. They're chasing the wrong problem, because the problem is people being told they can't do this and they shouldn't do that and they have to stop doing this, and we're not biologically programmed that way. And there's just overwhelming evidence that that is how it works against you to diet. But rather than me give you my opinions, let's just look at what research has had to say. And rather than give you a bunch of studies, I'll just go ahead and take advantage of the studies that all the experts have already done and the conclusions they drew. Number one, obesity research confirms long-term weight loss is almost impossible. I don't see any mention in there, if we get rid of soda, that'll solve it. That's not what they're saying. They looked at all of it, and they're saying it's almost impossible. These are the biggest experts in the world looking at the matter, as opposed to politicians deciding that soda is a bad item and maybe we shouldn't allow for sugary beverages, with absolutely no science behind them that compares to what I'm bringing you. So if you want to take a look, the next point about this, which I think is even more powerful, is this has already been tried. In the corporate culture, in corporate wellness plans, most people have been told that they'll either get incentives for weight loss or penalties. They've tried every plan imaginable. And this study released in, guess when? February of 2015. It says that there is no evidence that large-scale corporate attempts to give financial incentives or penalties, which would be your soda tax, has any benefit to help battle obesity. None. It's already been tried. Why are we discussing this any further? It's been tried in huge cultures. It fails every time. And what does it do? It harms the people that were told to try to restrict themselves, because they go off that plan and they rebound and they end up in an impossible situation of losing weight, as proven by study after study on the quote I just read you. And finally, an oldie but a goodie that I have to mention every time, because this stuff has been clearly documented since 2009. The New England Journal of Medicine produced a two-year study that the conclusion by one of the most renowned obesity experts in the world is the only effective alternative at present for halting the obesity epidemic is large-scale gastric surgery. I just don't see a little footnote saying, and a soda tax. Don't see it, because it's not going to help. It's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help reduce childhood obesity. It's not going to help people who are already obese. It's not going to help anyone. Soda at lunch has some real science behind it, because you get the benefits of metabolic timing. Restricting yourself over 5 years is a recipe for weight gain and worse health. Every study and every expert that's willing to state it out loud admits it and states it as a fact. So again, I ask you to be the judge of which is the better approach. Now, finally, let's talk about what the other impact of soda at lunch would do for people. It would create a real opportunity for some real dialogue and education on how to manage food, how to get control of nutrition in a way that lets us enjoy our lives. So we take a look, and Robert Lustig is the most well-known person who hates sugar and has decided it's the devil. And it makes me wonder what he's using as a substitute for his sugary beverages. I don't know. I'm not going to speak. I don't know him personally. But a lot of people who are saying this are busy at home drinking wine, saying that's good for you in some way or another. They're drinking alcohol of various sorts. No, we've never had any problems with people drinking alcohol from a health perspective, have we? And I know that stuff has been taxed, but that's because there is direct evidence that it can cause harm. Okay? To try to put the same label on sugar is nothing short of outrageous and very harmful. So Lustig says by itself it's an empty calorie, and it's even a poison. But then you look at more research and you find that when it comes to exercise timing, sugar, refined sugar, the same substance in all these sugary beverages, is more effective in preventing protein degradation and helping rebuild muscle if you properly time it. That's called the science of nutrient timing, very well established in athletic communities. If kids, youth, adults, everybody would learn more about how to time their exercise, they could see the benefits of exercise timing and enjoy soda at times that it would actually be healthy. It would actually help your body recover and rebuild muscle. That's the power of timing once you understand it and take advantage of it. But in any case, it's another argument for enjoying your soda at lunch. as opposed to never or having to pay extra for it. So it really comes down to your food choices. And when you take a look at these studies that are saying sugar's a poison, they're really talking about all high glycemic carbs. I mean, they're basically making soda the whipping boy right now. But I know there's movements to talk about, flour and things like pizza and all these junk foods that they want to say are very bad for you. And then you take a look at this 2014 study from Harvard, where they basically put it to the test and said, we'll give one group a high glycemic diet and one group a low glycemic diet, which might be something similar to the paleo diet or, South Beach, or these diets that say you should just never eat sugar or anything starchy or high carb. And guess what happened? I know it's going to shock so many of you, but there was no difference over the 5-week period. Look at the results. Instead of thinking you know how this all plays out because you've heard it so many times from experts, read the studies, read the information. Low glycemic index, low carbohydrate diet compared with high glycemic index, high carbohydrate diet did not affect insulin sensitivity. Guess what? The last I checked, that's the measure for diabetes. Okay, it didn't affect it. Didn't affect other heart measures either. But we're not here to talk about that. We're talking about obesity and diabetes because that's the selling points that the people who are pushing for the soda tax keep driving home. We're going to have more diabetics, in the children of today because of soda than ever before, and they're not going to outlive their parents. And it's because they're being told never to drink soda, which means they're only going to just keep drinking it whenever they can, that nobody's in front of them watching them. As opposed to perhaps a strategy like drinking soda at lunch when it's encouraged, properly timed, enjoying it, and getting a better health and quality of life out of it. Just a thought, because again, the studies certainly support that approach way beyond anything that the food police telling us to not drink soda are saying. So again, let's review. We've got metabolic timing. We've got restrictive dieting is so harmful. So harmful. It's overwhelmingly harmful, and telling people not to drink soda and taxing them is part of restrictive dieting for sure. And education for nutrition and exercise timing could change people's lives in a radical way. Thanks to some of my efforts with timing, it has helped a small group of people, which I'm thrilled about. I'd love to see it expand, whether it's through my efforts or anyone else's. The public has a right to know, and they need to get just this partial truths aren't helping anybody. In fact, it's making the situation a lot worse. So here's a 3-step action plan that will let people start to head in the right direction to get to where they want to be, which is enjoying their food, enjoying their life, enjoying their health, enjoying their fitness. It is possible. I'm a 7-year living example of it. Maybe there's other ways besides timing, but I haven't seen it, and the science certainly supports it. So let's talk about the 3 steps you might take that could actually start to put us on the right path. Number 1 is to oppose any soda taxes or require dietary restrictions to fight obesity or diabetes. If you don't think that these folks, once they get soda, are going to move to junk foods next and then probably start moving to other high glycemic carbs after that, you are mistaken. They got their plans and they need to be stopped now because they are wrong. The science doesn't support them at the very least, and there's other science that supports a completely different train of thought. Shouldn't they have all the science on their side before they get the government to start assessing taxes against us? I mean, has the government ever produced a beneficial result through penalizing people like that? How did prohibition work out for us? Not so great. Lots of bootlegging, lots of deaths, and they ended up having to make alcohol legal again in the end anyway. Nobody won. Everybody lost. Soda doesn't deserve any fate even close to that, and tonight you've seen there are better methods to do it. So step 1 is oppose it, and oppose it hard. Number 2, encourage education on metabolic timing, nutrition, and exercise timing, especially in youth. Our habits as adults are so ingrained, truly, we may not be able to adapt to a new timing environment. We may not be able to just exclusively enjoy our soda at lunch. We should certainly try. Some can do it, but the kids could learn, and the kids could benefit. So instead of trying to give them seaweed at lunch and try to restrict their lunches and make them look like some French restaurant cuisine that still has tons of fat and butter and all kinds of other problems with it, how about let them eat what they want, but let them eat it at the right time? And watch and see if we don't get a radical improvement in health readings and in weight. Okay, so that's number 2. And number 3, enjoy soda at lunch. Whatever your soda is, enjoy it. But tonight we're talking about soda because that is what these lobbyists have decided to pick on. And I absolutely will stand up at any level and make sure that the truth is heard when they want to start saying a particular food is the cause of health problems. It's not true. There's no science to support it. And it's extremely harmful over a 5-year period because, again, people will try because they believe they're doing the right thing, and all they'll do is, like those charts I showed you up front, get worse and worse and worse over time, and they'll keep blaming the foods that actually could save them if they would learn how to time them. So enjoy your soda at lunch and make sure that you are satisfied with it because other times aren't as healthy. I'm filming this at night. I could drink this in a heartbeat, and believe me, this is not an outrageous portion of soda for me over a meal and maybe afterwards. But I'm not, because nighttime is not the best time to drink this soda. It could harm my triglycerides, more likely to store as fat. The carbs will be, what am I going to do with all that carb energy? It's going to go into my body, and I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to go to bed. So it's not the right time. Tomorrow lunch, you bet your butt if I want Coke, it'll be poured over ice, and I'll enjoy it. But I'm drinking water tonight. There's no addiction here. I don't have to have the soda tonight. I'm not going nuts because I'm not getting it. It's easy because I understand the timing and I understand I'm never restricted. I'll have it when it makes the best sense for my health, my fitness, and my incredible enjoyment and relationship with food. So I hope you've seen that it truly is not what you eat, it's when you eat it. And I can't think of a better example than something that's in the public eye right now where people are sure soda's the devil, sugar's the devil. And there couldn't be more evidence against those claims than anything I've ever seen. All the people running around who eat sugar endlessly who are in perfect health, and there are many of them, okay? There are plenty of obese people who are sugar too. But again, why don't we get to the bottom of it and find answers that really work instead of just looking at one class of people and assuming that's got to be the problem because they all like to eat sugar? There's plenty of ways to get that resolved without them having to give up the sugar they love. So, with that said, you've got my case. Turn it over to you, the jury, and let you be the judge of what you think is the right next move. I strongly oppose any sort of taxes on soda or anything else for that matter, certainly no food or dietary restrictions. I would work hard on understanding my timing, and you can learn a lot more about that on our website, which is easytimingdiet.com. easytimingdiet.com. We got a lot of free information there for you. You can learn more about timing and metabolic timing and the way it can benefit you. And I do want to take a second and thank the facilities at Marin Media Center for allowing us access. Really appreciate it. Great facilities here. And my great director, Vita Flores, and camera person, Maya Cooper. Thank you so much for your help. Really appreciate that. And I am definitely looking forward to seeing all of you next time. And I hope